Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this week for Sisters of Legacy. And I totally bombed that intro, so I'm just gonna run this. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Hey, Lisa, good evening. Thank you for sharing as always. Yes, we are here for tonight's edition of Sisters of Legacy with my wonderful co hosts. We have Katrina Taylor
Good evening.
and Shanetta McNair.
Hey.
One of these days, I'm going to call these ladies' names and they are going to give it their all. But unfortunately, that night will not be tonight. So, tonight, guys, we are going to be talking about um, what's modest apparel or modesty. Um, this topic kind of was who sent this to me? Which one of y'all? Thought I right.
It was
Oh,
I.
This is not me.
I was about to say. So, Shanetta sent me a podcast, and they were touching on the subject. And I listened. I will say I went and I listened to the podcast because I didn't want to kind of just talk about it and not like have fully listened. It was with what's that woman's name?
Erica Campbell
Yeah, the
from
Mary
Mary Mary.
Mary,
Mm.
half of the Marys. And she was talking about, I believe it was like an album cover that she did, and for several people, I guess they had like an adverse reaction. Their reaction to it, it doesn't seem like it was surprising to her because I feel like when she was getting dressed and the genre that she, entertains in, she was kind of like prepared for what was to come. So, I mean, that's just my opinion. I felt like when she was getting dressed, it was kind of like, ooh, yeah, I look good, but ooh, they gonna let me have it. Kind of like one of those moments. Hey, honey. So Shanetta, tell me, like, what made you want to talk about this topic? Let's start
Okay.
there.
So I think the podcast was the thing that kind of like said, maybe we should talk about this. So the podcast was kind of like the last thing that kind of brought me to it. But in and this is, I can't even say in recent months, this is I think a constant conversation in the women of the church world. I think it's a constant conversation of, we go to church, we always talk about what's modest, what's not modest. It may not be so much of a conversation piece a whole lot or as much as it is in the church as it is in kind of like secular settings. Um, Sometimes maybe in professional settings, possibly, what's appropriate, what's professional, what's not professional, that type, just considering the way we dress. But lately, it seems like the topic has been coming up very frequently of what's appropriate, what's not appropriate, what's modest, what's not modest, as far as going into scripture and pointing out through scripture and reading um, how we should look, how we should dress. And the question was just posed to me like, what's really modest? Like my definition of modest, your definition of modest, and Katrina's definition of modest could possibly be three different things.
Right.
Um, and we all kind of do some similar things. We're all professional women. We all go to church. Like we have, but we could still yet have a very different definition of what's modest.
Right.
Um, my definition of modest and an older woman's definition of modest may very well be different. And then my young daughter's, not young, but my, what do I call her? My half adult daughter, definition of modest may also again be different. She's 20. She's not really a technical adult because I pay her bills. So anyway,
Right. Right.
my half adult daughter, her definition of modest might be very different than my definition. So like if we were to try to like, I guess, encapsulate modest and say, what is modest? Like this is like here, this is modest, do this. What will we call that? So when Erica was on the podcast, she was just talking. She was talking about a lot of things, but they got around to this album cover and they got around to the backlash that she received from this album cover where she had on this white, what they call, I guess, what the young girls will call a bodycon dress. But it's form fitting. It was white. It was, you know, well beneath her knees. Actually covered up to like her neck. It was like a turtleneck dress. um, but it was form fitting. So she received a lot of backlash about her attire on the album cover. And I guess because maybe it was too tight, or people felt like it was too tight or too form fitting, it showed too much of her curves, or, you know, whatever the case may be for a gospel album. So I think that for me was like, when she got dressed, like you said, for this album cover, I think she kind of knew that, you know, oh, I like the way I look in this. I like, you know, the way this fits me. But at the same time, she didn't feel like that was, what's the opposite of modest? Immodest, unmodest?
I don't know.
Language arts teacher, I don't know. Oh,
Immodest.
she didn't feel like it was wrong for her to wear this outfit, to, you know, to take photos that would last, not just to like, oh, I'm going on date night with my husband, you know, I want to look a certain kind of way, versus I'm going to take a whole album cover that's going to be circulated for a very long time, hopefully, you know. um what are the thoughts on what that looks like? So at the end of the conversation, I guess, and I don't know that we're going to get here, but I guess that I would like to be able to have like a prescribed list of modesty that I could take and hand to somebody and say, okay, guys, me, Sam, and Trina came up with this list, and this is what modest is.
Okay, that's a big ask.
That's a big ass.
Oh, but yeah, that sounds good. So Trina, did you? I think I sent it to you guys. Did you look at it? Have you seen the picture at all? Any of that?
I saw the picture. I saw a clip of the of what she was talking about. Um, I remember her saying that some of the backlash with her being called like harlot and you know whore and stuff, and I'm
Jezebel.
like what? I mean, I think that you know that was a lot, you know, to be called something like that.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. For me, for somebody to come like that, I think you have to look at the intention of the person. Um, you know, like I think that's very important. Intention. Um, and I feel like if we were looking at it from a biblical perspective, and somebody wants to go all the way to whore and harlot and Jezebel, then the intention would have to be to seduce somebody with your dress or the way you're dressing or how you know what I'm saying? So if you're going way to, you know, harlot, then I think the intention of the person would have to be to seduce someone or you know or have a like their intention is sexual,
Hmm.
you know. um and I think that a lot of times, um if that's our definition, and I'm not saying it is, but if that's our definition, then a lot of people, they don't have any intention to seduce anybody. They don't have any intention to arouse anybody sexually. Their intention is, I lost this weight. I look cute. I'm about to, flash it, show it, which may or may not be like a lot of times women have no is not even crossing their mind. I'm about to go, have these guys look at me. A lot of times it's just like, oh, I look cute. I'm about to work this. Look at my cute outfit. I look good in my clothes now or whatever. I look good in my clothes. Look at me. Um, so that's for me, I'm really concerned about the intention of when you dress. What is your intention when you put certain clothes on? Like, are you saying, I'm going to wear this push up bra and put the girls up high so that the deacons can look at me and you know what I'm
Not the
saying? Like,
deacons.
is that your intention? Or, you know, oh, if I push him up high, does that make the rest of my torso look slimmer and now I look like a Coke bottle? Like now I look cuter
Cuter than who though?
to yourself.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. It's like I rarely think about if a guy gonna be looking at me. I don't really have anything out for the most part, but when I'm getting dressed, I'm just like, ooh, no rolls are showing. I look cute. So like, I mean, if somebody else happened to see that and be, oh, okay, that was not my intention. Like, it's not my intention for you to, look at my assets.
Okay. I mean, I got okay. So I get your point, right? What you were saying about intention, but like, so then that's kind of saying like, but can it ever be too much though? Because like, they just had the Oscars, right?
So,
And what is her name? Venus. Venus. Is that her name? The other sister,
The
the
Williams sister.
tennis sister,
Hmm.
Venus, right? That's her name. Now she has been open about her virginity. So
Hmm.
she's openly said she's a 40-year-old virgin or whatever, however old she is. But at the Oscars, her they took pictures of the dress she was wearing, and you could actually see her nipples, like through the dress. You could see it in the picture. So like, I'm not saying that So you would assume, and I say assume, that someone has made that decision to not be sexual all up to this point. You would assume that it wasn't her intention to. I said assume. I'm saying you would assume it wasn't her intention to be trying to seduce somebody, but like I said, her whole nipple was out. So like, is there ever a point that outside of that kind of trumps the intention?
well, just to the point of her virginity or whatever. A lot of people have all kinds of reasons for um whatever saving themselves for marriage. They don't have to like some none of it. Some of it doesn't have to do with any type of I don't know. I guess religion or
Right,
you know what I
right.
mean. So I don't know that that would have anything to do with her not showing herself. Like because a lot of people it's the I'm confident in my body, so that's why I'm showing it type
Okay.
situation. But I, I do agree with that. Sometimes it is too much, but where do you draw the line, and what's your reason?
I
Okay.
would say when I think about just in like if her saving herself or keeping herself for whatever intent it is behind it, whether it's saving herself for marriage or whatever her intent is behind that piece of it. I feel like if you're open enough to say that I am a virgin and I am not, I'm not sexually engaged or involved with anyone, never have been, and maybe not planning to be at this moment. um for me, it feels like there would be more of a sense of consciousness about what I show. um just because I just feel like if that's not the message that you're communicating. And I didn't see the dress, honestly, so I literally just like googled it really quick while you were describing the dress and what happened. And so as soon as I seen it, I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing there. Like, and so then when we define modest, for me, when I look at the dress, I'm like, yes, modest up until you get right here in the chest area, and then it's not. And then it's like, no, no more modesty. This is all I got. So, and I could definitely see how you could definitely have a wardrobe malfunction in a dress like that, and people see more than what they are supposed to see. So for me, that's kind of like, well, you're not really being, um, it's kind of like you're communicating two different messages.
Okay.
um because the dress communicates, I think, a little bit of sexuality because of the way it's cut, um versus your announcement to the world that you're not, you know but can we be, um can we have a sense of I guess feeling sexy without it being a sex thing? That's a different question for a different show, huh? Okay.
I mean, I'm just, like, I think once you include the word in what you're doing, it's a little hard to separate,
The two.
the latter part, like down the line, in my mind anyway. And I could be totally wrong. But I did look up, like, kind of what's the definition of modest apparel and modest whatever. Of course, you get all the biblical stuff, but
Right.
it was basically just saying wearing less skin revealing items or clothing. That
Okay.
was the definition of modest, like, apparel. And then I was like, okay, well, let's just see kind of what modesty is. Just trying to piece together. And you get, it seemed like they were struggling to define what modest was. Because it was like to be modest and, like,
Right.
but one definition I did find, it was saying, um, to not be extreme, to not be loud with it. So I was thinking, like a lot of times when you see, especially people on TV, like, ain't nothing quiet about none of this stuff. Everything is extreme. Everything is exposed. Like I was, we were just in out of town. We took my mom out of town, and I think it must have been prom night.
Mm.
So my sister looks and she said, "What happened when to prom dresses? Like every dress was this big. I think I seen this whole girl's hoo ha, the whole thing. That's how her dress kind of went like this in the front. So like it came and went like this, and where it met was not in a good place. And obviously, she had never heard of underwear because I don't think she had none on. And this was somebody's 17-year-old daughter, 18, whatever the prom age is, in her prom dress. And it was a lot of them. Like, you see them running around, and there was, right at the cheek line. And I don't mean this cheek line. Like, my sister said, well, what happened, to the long, pretty, flowing prom dresses? Like, nobody don't dress like that no more. Now, my sister is like 13, 14 years younger than me. So she's a lot younger than me. So even when I was thinking it in my head, and for her to say it, I was like, girl, them times have long since passed. And it often makes me wonder, like, is the change really about confidence though? Is it really just, I feel like I look good, so I should be naked? Like, you, because, like, I heard what you said. I get it. Sometimes when you lose weight, You might have something in your closet that you bought and couldn't get in it, and you might put it on. But like, you know, I don't know. When you got all of this out, and then at the bottom, it's right at the line. I just think it often makes me wonder, like, how did we go from? And I know, like, the '50s and all that was a long time ago. Hey, mother, how are you? I know that was a long time ago. With the big puffy dresses and the gloves and all that. I don't think we need to be that extreme, but I think we've progressed a little much. Like, it's not even classy. Like,
That's a good word.
yeah, like I'm not saying people should have been calling old girl a harlot and whatever, but some of the stuff,
But you know what I think? I think that modesty in its definition is gonna will always have to be redefined. Right, redefined because am I saying that right?
yeah,
Mhm.
I think
Fine.
so.
Redefine. Um, yeah, a word just sounds funny to you. Anyway, um, because as time goes on, like the bar keeps moving.
Mhm.
Because okay, so I just watched the Netflix show Bridgerton,
Right,
and that level, everything's heat. You know what I mean? Like you
right,
got your corsets, and you got your long flowing, and you got your they have all the undergarments and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and just us being modest today, wearing leggings and a long shirt. Oh my God! Like to them, it would have been like the leg, the tight. You know what I mean? It would have been a whole you know big thing the way we dress today. You
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? And what we feel is modest. So it's like it's always going to be a redefinition of modesty with the times, because like if we dress now like they did back then to say that we would be to say we're modest, people would be like, wait a minute, like y'all doing too much. That's too much. You don't gotta have on petticoats or whatever. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it's always gonna be that definition of modesty that changes. And there's gonna be always people saying, oh, somebody's doing too much.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I mean, I feel like okay, so back about 20 years ago, me and my husband, we were joking around and we were saying, man, before you know it, people are gonna be walking around with two stickers here and here, and that's gonna be it, right? And before I knew it, I'm like, yo, it's for real, it's true. Now look, you got the pasties, and it all came to pass. And we were joking about it, saying, that's where it's going, joking about it. But this is where it is now. People walk out with a sticker here and then a see-through something, so you might as well not even have the see-through one. But so it's gonna you know
I feel
I
like
don't.
in your definition that you gave, in reading the definition, it talked, I think you said something about with the least amount of skin showing or something like that. And I think that if we go with that and we say, okay, well, modesty is where you have the least amount of skin showing. So we're saying that I need to have on long sleeves. I need to have on, a shirt up to here, and my dress needs to be down to my ankles. Like, how much are we, like, we have, I guess, like for me, I'm not gonna put on anything that makes me uncomfortable. Um, and I think that that's where my definition of what's modest comes into play. Like if I'm not comfortable, it's probably just like if I have to keep, pulling and shifting and tucking and sucking stuff in to make sure that from trying to sit down and things change and shift when you sit. So you trying to, sit. If I have to keep doing all that, first of all, I don't really care about whether or not it's modest. I'm just uncomfortable.
Okay.
And my comfort trumps everything else. I don't know if y'all know that about me. My comfort like trumps everything when it comes to clothes. Um, so if it's uncomfortable, I'm just probably not gonna do it. But if I'm teaching, if I'm going to my daughter and I'm saying to her, not that I haven't, but if I wanted to go to her and say, well, 20-year-old daughter, that's not modest. I don't want you to wear that anymore because that's not modest. Or a 20-year-old daughter, that might be modest for your generation. That's cute, like what's the gauge that we use. Like one example that I talk about, and I'm gonna mess with you for a minute, Sam. Um so we always have this constant battle about slips and stockings.
I feel
And
attacked.
a, a lot of people feel like the wearing of slips and stockings makes it more modest, right?
Is
Um,
that what that is?
but there are some of us that don't necessarily agree with that always. Now, I feel like I'm gonna put myself out there. I feel like stockings, um, kind of like you can kind of gauge them with the weather. I hate stockings, but I also feel like you can gauge them with the weather, um, and the type of outfit that you have on. So, long dress, maybe you can get away without those stockings because it's long down to your ankles, and nobody is seeing those legs, right? Wintertime, you probably need on some, opaque tights, or what's
Right.
the ones you can't see through,
Opaque.
because it's cold, it's winter, you need to cover your legs, right? So I don't know. Like I kind of debate that. Now I did have a conviction like years ago about slips, where we had a lady in our church. I was like a not really a protester of slips, but I was just kind of like, it's a slip. Like either you have it or you don't have it. As long as your dress is not see through, you're good. And she did this whole lesson, and I can't remember everything she said about the wearing of slips. And I was like, oh man. So of course at that time I went, made sure I had like a slip in every color to, match all the outfits and all that good fun stuff. And, added that to my list of modest apparel items. Make sure I had those things. You gotta have them in every
Listen,
color.
y'all
Isn't
already.
the purpose of a slip to make sure you can't see through the garment? So
Right.
why do you need a slip if your garment isn't see through? Like that was always my thing. Like I'm not wearing the slip with under a jean skirt that's already to the floor.
Because there's always that. There's always the to the floor.
The jean skirt to the floor, and I gotta wear a slip for
Seems a
what?
bit much.
Y'all just want me to be hot.
Hot.
And that's the thing. Like, let's be honest. Georgia is hot, and in the summertime, you think I'm coming in here with some pantyhose all up under something to sit in your service for 4, 7, 11 hours and be hot? Hmm. Y'all pray for me on that one because I ain't got there yet. I just don't. Is modest defined by somebody else's comfort? Hmm.
I've
That's good.
heard that modest is more so defined by the lack of self control of other people, mainly men.
Yeah,
Um,
see, to me, that's not modest because your husband is a leering deacon. Don't keep running over to me every Sunday trying to tell me that my skirt is too tight. Like, that's not about being modest. That's about your insecurity. So I'm sorry. I know I just cut you off because that just annoys my whole inner
But
being.
it's true. It happens. I think some people do kind of base modesty based on someone else's comfort per se, where they're kind of like, "Oh no, I don't like and then it becomes the statement of that's not modest, or she's dressed like a harlot, or she's dressed like what else did they say with she said she got called a harlot,
Jezebel.
a Jezebel, which that's not even what a Jezebel is, but
Right.
there's that. So you get caught all these different things from simply, just wearing what you wear. Because somebody else is attracted to it and because their eyes are drawn. I heard one girl say, "What do my kneecaps have to do with it? Like, why are my knees a problem?" But I think that that's where some like the real like super strict definitions of what modest is considered comes into play from the lack of self control on someone from the opposite sexes. You know,
That is ridiculous. Like, That is ridiculous that you expect me to govern my life because these people don't have self control. Now, don't misunderstand me. Like, okay, so I agree with a lot of the, like if I'm going to church, yes, your dress should be to your knees. Unless you got on long boots that come up, or maybe some tights or whatever, then I'm not tripping. Like, I feel like there should be some kind of um, some kind of standard when you go not just to church, but kind of to everywhere. There's a
Right.
time and a place. Now, if you on
Right.
date night with your husband, I don't expect to see no slip or no stockings. That's just me personally. Now, maybe your husband is a deacon and he like that thing. Then, girl, get it going. I don't know, but like I feel like there's a time and a place,
Right.
for some of these things. Like the album cover, honestly, like I saw the dress, I looked at it. I mean, listen, this is the body God gave me. Like it is what it is. It was an album cover. I mean, what to me, I didn't feel like it was offensive. She wasn't bent over. She wasn't like this on. Like I don't feel like she was overtly trying to get
Right.
somebody's attention. That's
Right.
me personally. But everything to me, that's how they dress though. Like as long as I can remember, the Marys have been doing it, and they,
They have.
like that's just their personality, like the stuff they like. And I honestly like don't really feel like anything is wrong with it. Now if I come home and Anthony got this album cover that he hiding and looking at it, ooh, Erica in this dress, my issue is not with Erica wearing a dress. You know what I'm saying? Like my
Right.
issue is in what's wrong with him. And I think sometimes we do everything but deal with the issue.
I got a question though. So what
Okay,
if you come home and it's not Anthony that has the album cover?
it's AJ.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I'm answering your question. This question said, honestly, do you think some are repeating the treatment they got in the church? Absolutely. I feel like some of them old cranky people, like they trying to. This what they did to me. Keep you in line, and I don't think it comes from a place of malice. I think sometimes, like I always say, or I tell people, like growing up as a teenager, I needed a Robert L. Norris in my life, who was then my pastor. He was hard. He was hard. But there was a period of my life where I needed that because there was so much going on. I could have easily
Mhm.
wound up like some of them. So
Mhm.
like I realized I needed that. But like now to have somebody dictating to me, no, it just wouldn't work. And if it was AJ, okay, so y'all close your ears because I don't want y'all to have to. I mean, honestly, I want my son to develop a healthy attraction to women.
Mhm.
And now, unfortunately, when you see boys turning into girls, you think they're friends, and you never know. To me, I'm not gonna say I look at him and be like, "Oh, go son." I'd probably, say the same thing I say to his father. If you don't put that thing down, like, it's fine to look at it, and it's fine to
Mhm.
find something attractive, but
Mhm.
don't be fixating on stuff. Now that's unhealthy.
Yeah. That's a whole nother level of unhealthy
Yeah,
too.
but I
Like,
mean, I want him to be healthily attracted to a woman. Let me see, I can say because he don't listen to this. So one day we were out together as like a family. She really was a woman, but she looked kind of young, maybe like her early 20s. She had on like a midriff, like it was up here. You couldn't see anything, just like her midsection or whatever. And she had on pants, but like she had abs or I don't know, whatever you call those things. I ain't got none. Um, but we were driving past her like in a strip mall or whatever. My son looked, and then I turned and I looked at him, and he was turning all the way around. And I was like, really? So that's what I need to do to get your attention, invite her over? Because you. But I mean, even in that, I was like, like, to some degree,
Mhm.
I was kind of relieved that he looked. But
Mhm.
I'm just like, don't, it's fine to look, it's fine to be attracted to people. Let's just not, let's keep this in healthy terms. So for me,
Mhm.
I don't think it would bother me.
Definitely.
Yeah, I feel like you could be overly too much, and
Mhm.
in these days and times, you don't know what's pushing some of these kids over. I don't know,
Yeah.
like I see so much with like young kids. I mean, at 14, I knew I liked boy. Like I couldn't imagine somebody talking about, hey girl, and it's another girl. Like that would have been obscene. Like we just, I don't know. Like in the time that we grew up, that
It
just
wasn't. Yeah.
wasn't like the norm.
Right.
So like now it's almost like it's something in the water.
Mhm.
So for me, I think it would make me feel fine for him to to look at whatever. Like I said,
Right.
within reason. I don't want him fixating on the wrong thing, whether it's somebody dressed like whatever or TV or whatever. I don't want him to fixate on anything like that. So I did find this quote. It said, modest outfits are empowering. It may not seem like much to other people, but the clothes you wear give you a better sense of self worth.
Better sense of self worth.
I think dressing appropriately for the occasion, for where you're going, for what you have to do. Um, I think it makes the most sense. And I think that's being modest as far as moderation, doing things in moderation, not too far to the left and not too far to the right. So if you dress appropriately for work, you're not going to go to work in, club gear. So you shouldn't show up to church in club gear. You know what I'm saying? To the nightclub or whatever. Um, when you go to the beach, you shouldn't have on a long dress and leggings underneath it, and you're at the beach. You should have on swimwear so you can go swimming. You should dress for the occasion, and that's what, for me, to me, what moderation is, doing things in moderation. And I think it's empowering if you show up to work in your business suit or whatever you're supposed to wear, that gives you the confidence to do your job. And I think that goes for all occasions and settings. You dress appropriately for where you're going. Um, you know, I think for me that's what being modest and be in moderation, when you have to take into consideration cultural norms at the same time, because again, we're not wearing full petticoats and long up to here and down to the floor either, because it is 2022.
I agree. Definitely dressing for the occasion is empowering. You ever went somewhere and you overdressed?
Yes.
Like, and I realized like you feel just as crazy if you go and you underdress.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Like, so I definitely agree with dressing for the occasion. That is empowering. Because when you walk in, you're like, oh, I got this right. Okay. And not even that you look like everybody else or you're up to people's standards, but just, okay, it's evening wear, I got on evening wear. It's a party, I got on party wear. So I think that definitely can be empowering. My only thing with this whole modest apparel is that um, oftentimes things slide too much into somebody else's perception. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you've decided, because you feel like my skirt is tight or whatever, you've come up with this whole thing in your head that has nothing to do with me. And now
Mhm.
you want me to adjust my whole life to make you more comfortable.
Mhm.
So, like, when it comes to modest apparel, that is one of the, like, the most bothering things. Because, like you said in the beginning, Shanetta, there's no definition
Hmm.
of what modest apparel is.
Right.
You know, people are you get more Holy Ghost, you'll dress different. I'm never gonna dress like you. So I don't know if there's enough Holy Ghost ever to make me dress like you. Ever. Like, it's like you can get caught in somebody else's perception of what and who you should be. And
Right.
so, like, with some of this stuff, that is always like my caution. Like, I don't want to be labeled as nothing. Definitely not a Jezebel or a harlot or any of that stuff. But you know, I just want the freedom, like to be myself.
Yeah.
I think sometimes that is the hardest part with some of this stuff because it becomes like you feel like you're living up to someone else's standards or
Right.
trying to be who somebody else thinks you should be.
Yeah.
And that can be a dangerous place because you always, chasing, trying to meet a bar that somebody else has set for you.
Right. I think the cultural norms piece is actually a pretty big part of it as well. Um and not so much with like the socially cultural norms, but more so of the times, being aware of what's happening in the times and where you live. I think, for instance, if we travel to another country, something that we would deem as, not so necessarily, the most normal thing might be a very much so a norm in another place. And different cultures have a different sense of what's normal, acceptable,
Right,
and practiced on a routine basis. And then the times as they change. So, like talking about like the Bridgerton times, or the what medieval times type of
right,
thing, where they wore all those different layers of clothing. But culturally, during that time or during times such as that, the men also wore the wigs when they were doing like the
right,
formal, and that would be something that we would look at a man with like a whole full on, white wig. We would be walking around like, sir, what are you doing?
right,
um so that, like, there are so many different things that would be um considered a cultural norm in 2022 that 5 years from now, 6 years from now, 10 years from now may kind of shift with, what the practice of a particular time or place may even be. Or we could travel from one place to another and it may just be, something um just different. If you go to some countries, there are places where the only thing that a woman is
right,
allowed to show is her eyes. Her entire, head has to be covered. Um, down right down to, the hands. There was a moment though during the pandemic where I was just kind of like, I think that they're getting it all right, and I'm going to start walking around. The only thing you're gonna see is my eyes, and then I'm put some shades on. You're not gonna see those either. There were moments during the pandemic where I was like, they're doing this right. This is how I'm about to live my life. um, but I think that that's what we have to we have to learn how not to be so judgy about what other people have on, and kind of learn how to monitor our own, I guess, what it is for me that makes me comfortable, that makes me, feel like I am not doing anything outside of what I should be doing for myself, versus trying to be so quick to point fingers. I thought it was super interesting that she was called so much as, a Jezebel, a harlot, all those. It just seemed so harsh to me, and it was like, wow. And these are the Christians, these are church people who are pointing the finger and calling all these different names. And it's like, and everybody else is like, oh, she looks good, she look, and we're so quick to kind of point out what's modest, what's not modest, what's, acceptable, what's not acceptable, when we really have to learn that if something is literally, like, I could get, if a person is coming in, to church, and they got, everything popping out and squoze together, and then they, jiggling and everything all throughout the church. Yeah, you might want to deal with that. That might not be appropriate for the church setting. Um, but if they come in and they're comfortable, like, why are we not focused on the Lord in that moment, that we're so focused on what this person is wearing today.
I mean, that sounds good. That sounds great. But realistically, like no matter where you are, whether it's church or at work, when people come in dressed out of order or dressed, let's just say, using the modest definition, dressed extremely or loud, you notice it. I think it's just
You
human
do.
nature that you notice things. I think it's just
But
how,
noticing and judging, I think, are two different things.
okay, so, all right, like that's like saying, you looking at me and saying, oh, your hair red. You notice that my hair is red. And the same thing is like, oh, your hair red. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know. I think that like the world is, people are people. And I feel like anytime you step out to go anywhere for any particular reason, you are going to get a plethora of opinions, whether they're verbal or not verbal, whether it's just a look, an eye roll, you know, like it's always going to be something. So I really feel like you have to focus on um, feeling empowered before you even leave your house. Like one thing she had moved on to the thing, and she was talking about her new song. She has some song, I think it's called Positive or something like that. And she was
Yeah.
saying she always is asking her kids, like, what are you saying to yourself about yourself?
Mhm.
Like, before you even leave the house. Like, never mind, you going out into the world and whatever's gonna happen in the day, is gonna happen. But like when it's all said and done, like I'm leaving my house as Samantha, and when I come back, I'm still Samantha. So I
Mhm.
can't let other people, that I encounter during the day turn me into, something that's not Samantha. Like, and I know that I'm making it sound really simple, but I think sometimes we're just unfocused. Like, we need to work on, and I'll say we because, everybody has some area that you can be more confident in, that maybe you can be more secure in. And I
Mhm.
think, like, those are the things that we each have to focus on separately. So even if you are the person, like old girl, that want to show a little bit of your girls out, or or have the cheeks out in the bottom, you have to be confident in whatever you're gonna do. Be resolute in your decision, like, because somebody's always going to have an opinion about it. They're always, you could call it, nobody can judge me but God. Yeah, okay. I mean, that it sounds good, but the reality is, whether I'm judging you or not, I'm definitely probably gonna have something to say. It's just the nature of people. Trina, like you want to say something?
Um, I mean, I agree with that. I mean, I guess my only caveat would be is like if we're gonna be um just in the situation where people um may be coming to church and we think that they're not dressed appropriately or everything is all out or whatever. Um, when it comes to being wise with people's souls,
Yeah.
I think we have to try not to judge. We have to make sure that, first of all, a lot of people are not aware of and really don't care about church culture the way we grew up or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely.
What they have on, like you said, they're coming, they feel comfortable, they feel confident in their skin or whatever. And church culture may say, oh, that's not appropriate or whatever, but we have to be more mindful of their souls first. Like we can't try to clean them up first before they
Right.
even get Jesus.
No,
They
I
ain't
agree.
even get, let's give them the love of Christ first. You know what I'm saying? And it's not like, oh, like you said, the Holy Ghost will clean you up or whatever. But a person needs to feel that they have the love of Christ first before, you know, well, now I need to do this, I need to clean. No, it's a gift. Let me receive my gift first before now I'm trying to earn my gift.
Right.
It's just a gift. So let's give people Jesus Christ. And if we all come in, oh, you got the cover up. Now they feel more uncomfortable if you come with a shawl and a blanket. As soon as they sit down at the church and you come wrapping them with a blanket, now they feel out of place and they can't even receive Christ
Right.
because you trying to
You've just
pat
distracted
pat,
them. Yeah.
put something in pat pat like.
I mean,
Right.
I totally agree with that. I mean, the, don't misunderstand me. I'm just saying, like, people always gonna have an opinion. Like, I don't think just because you think my skirt is tight, you should come tell me that. Like, I'm fine with you judging me from over there. So, like, I don't agree that just because you have an opinion about something or you see something, that it's your place to engage and offer your opinion that wasn't asked for. So,
Right.
and I mean, that definitely, unfortunately, happens a lot um, inside the four walls of, the building. It definitely happens. But I definitely, I don't think so. I don't care if you come in and, I may see something like, at best, I may say, ooh, you know, did you know that, like, I may try to take one of them approaches depending on how out there it is. I may say, oh, did you know it's a little high in the back or something? And if you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm like, okay, go ahead, shorty. I'm not, like, for me, but like, I totally agree with you. We can't just offer your opinion where it's not asked. But I think that should go across the board. Like, I don't think your opinion is always, it's definitely not always welcome. And a lot of times people don't ask you. We just offer it up because we feel like we know what the standard should be.
Mm-hmm.
So I think unless that's like your role, like, listen, your mother was magical with her, with the way she let people know that, she wouldn't like make a big scene. Sometimes you didn't even know she was coming. She'd just come and slide a little scarf on your lap. She'd give you a couple of pats, and she'd go right back to her seat. Never said a word. She would never have to say a word. And you held that scarf to the end of the service, and then you took it back to her. Because she just had such a sweet spirit about the way she did stuff. She was sincere about telling you, cover it up, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
But, but it was just the way that she did it. And, like, I always remember that, like, from being a teenager. Sometimes you done threw something on too fast and didn't realize maybe there was a little inch or something that just wasn't right. Like, I think approach goes a very, very long way. But sometimes, yeah, you might need to quit the committee because it's not for you. The opinion committee might not really work out. And that's okay because there's somewhere else you could be more beneficial. But yeah, you should always try to, not just in church, but try to be considerate of people's um, feelings. Like, a lot of times, if I don't know you, I'm not gonna say nothing because I know that I could come across harsh to people that I know. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if I don't know you, I'm the last person that you want to ask an opinion of. Because I
Yeah.
already know I'm probably going to mess this all up. Not even on purpose. It's just, it's one of those things that's just not really for me. So I think it's important to try to be considerate, especially within the confines, of church, work. You don't want somebody in the HR office because you done told them her V go down too much at work. Like, it's important sometimes. I mean, you will notice things because we're human. We
Yeah.
notice things, we see things. You may not even like it because, again, we're human. we all have our own set of likes and dislikes. But I think sometimes it's important just to internalize your feelings and not always verbalize them.
Right.
So I don't know. Shanetta, I don't know about your definition. I don't even know if we have a definition.
We didn't get a list. We didn't get a definition at
I
all.
mean, here's the thing, like, when I think about modest, I really think that it kind of depends on your body size and type. Because if you're top heavy, then of course, shopping for tops can be a challenge. So you
Right.
know what I'm saying? Like you might have to, whatever. Like sometimes buying a suit ain't a good idea because your top is trying to wave. If you like me and everything below is just doing its own thing, you. So I think sometimes modesty is kind of just being mindful of your body type.
Nice. I like that.
I mean, that would be my definition. Being mindful of your body size and type.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Trina, you got one?
Um, I think I gave mine. Like really just dress appropriately for where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know.
I like it.
Okay.
So we're mindful
So,
of our body types and we're dressing appropriate for the occasion or for the event or attendance wherever we're going.
all right.
I like that. I think those definitely fit into like classifying what would be considered modest, appropriate, and kind of being able to like something to take away and say, okay, I could teach this to someone. This is
Okay,
what I
you
could.
gotta add one. You
Oh,
gotta
I have
add
to
one.
add one. Okay, my bad.
What you mean?
I like what y'all had, so I'm like, okay, I could take that, and we can kind of like give that to someone as like a ground rule, body type, occasion.
All right, one more. Come on, you
Okay,
gotta hit us with one more.
so we have body type, we have occasion. So I would definitely say comfort. Nothing you wear should create such a discomfort that you're constantly shifting and moving, trying to, trying to
Popping
regain.
and pulling.
Yeah. So like while you're looking at body type, while you're looking at appropriateness, you want to make sure you can do the things that you need to do in the attire that you're wearing. So if I'm going to play kickball, I'm probably not going to wear, the thigh length skirt. I might want to wear some shorts or, some pants, but maybe I'm not a pants wearer, so maybe I need to wear something a little bit longer. Just depending on what I'm going to do.
Well, that was a good one. See, look, we got us a nice little list going.
Yeah.
So now you can definitely pull that out and be like, this is it.
Hmm.
That was a good one. Okay, that was easier than I thought because I didn't think we was gonna be able to pull it all together. But job well done, ladies. Job well done. So yeah, I think that was I did read the quote. I mean, listen, man, we this is your what people see is a reputation of who you are.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like dressing. People see you sometimes before they hear you. I think you're and they say good job. I think, represent yourself well. How whatever that means to you. If
Hmm.
you feel well represented with it all hanging out, it is not my place to tell you not to do that. I would just say, don't come to my house. I just being honest, like keep it the way you at. But I think it's important to and dress how you want to be perceived.
Yeah.
Like is sometimes just showing up in our skin makes people perceive us one way. So then if you add bad attire to that, that's just like
Yeah.
solidifying that you're not or you don't meet a standard. So I would add that, dress how you want to be perceived and
Hmm.
how you want people to see you. And be confident in whatever that is. Like, the one thing she said, my takeaway was definitely, what do you say to yourself about yourself? Because
Mhm.
it's not always what other people say, it's what we say to ourselves. Oh, I'm never going to get this. Oh, I'm never going to do this. I can't believe I messed up so bad. Oh my God, I look so terrible. Um, she said, some people dress like Christians and are devils. Oh,
That is the truth.
that happens.
Yep.
That definitely happens. That could be a tricky thing, but at least start with the attire. Get your attire together, and you should be working on your inner man the whole time anyway. Um, but definitely how you speak to yourself matters. The words that you accept and adopt as truth in your head, those
Mhm.
words are important. So everybody start there. How you talk to yourself matters. What are you saying to yourself about yourself in the morning when you're leaving? Are you saying you hate your job? Oh God, this Monday's gonna be a terrible day, because then
Mhm.
you'll have a bad Monday every Monday.
Mhm.
So speak positive to yourself. Embrace the beauty of who you are at any size, any height, any weight, all of it. Embrace who you are and have a great night. We are on every Tuesday at 8:30 p.m. So we look forward to seeing you again next week.